Well, like all good entrepreneurs, we decided in 2002 it'd be fun to start a dating site, mainly so we can meet girls, my co-founder and I. So we went ahead and decided to start the site. It was actually called Sona.com to start with, and we were focused on the South Asian community. So we started the site, and it was really hard for us to get traction initially because we had no money to buy advertising or anything like that. So we decided at some point to kind of add this kind of social aspect to it, bring friends into the circle. And social networking was really just getting started at this point, and we thought this was a pretty neat, novel idea. So we kind of moved into that model and eventually kind of opened it up to the rest of the world, not just focusing on South Asians, but really focusing on a global market. So I think, it kind of just evolved as our users gave us feedback, and, right at the time we kind of started doing that. Of course, Friendster and MySpace were doing it as well, but I think we kind of got in around the same time. So it was really actually, our first company was very successful because my co-founder, his brother actually found his wife on our site. So once we kind of got to that point, we said, okay, fine, we can move on to High Five now and focus on social networking. So.
Okay, Drew?
Well, it was back in 1997, I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine, and he pointed out that all the 4-letter domain names were disappearing. And that hadn't occurred to me before, so, because we knew the 3-letter ones were gone, but we decided to go ahead and look up a few, and it turned out that FARC was available, so I went ahead and grabbed it, but I didn't have any good idea for a website, because all you could do back in 1997 was make a site, like that I Kiss You guy, you guys remember him? Yeah. Anyways, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to put that up there, that's crap. And who knew MySpace would be so popular? But anyways, so that afternoon I got a email from a buddy of mine that had a picture of a squirrel with enormous nuts. Right after I registered the domain name, and I was like, oh, that's a good thing. I'll put that up there. That'll work. So about a year and a half later, the squirrel's been up there for like 18 months at this point. I was sitting around at home one night, and I was thinking about, because I was known amongst my circle of friends for finding odd news, and I would send it to him every once in a while, especially a buddy of mine who lived over in England, where they don't get any of our weird news and vice versa, so I'd always shoot him a couple. And I remember one in particular was about, it wasn't exactly a funny thing, sort of. I always tell people that the best humor on FARC is the stuff that you're actually ashamed that you laughed at, and this is definitely one of them. It was, there were 2 fighter pilots doing their thing. I don't know if you guys know anybody in the Air Force, but they like to fly like 2-3 feet apart all the time. They just do it. I don't know why it's fun, I guess. But basically, one of them crashed, and they basically, do the investigation, find out why did the one guy crash, and it turned out that the guy who crashed took his flight suit off to moon the other guy. And then lost pressure, oxygen, passed out, and crashed. So,
and
that's an example of something.
Whose Air Force was this?
Whose Air Force? That was U.S.
U.S.?
That over New Mexico somewhere, if I remember right.
Was Dick Cheney one of the pilots?
They didn't say. I don't think so. But anyway, and I knew I had this domain name lying around, and I thought, I should probably start putting these stories that I'm finding up on the website. At the same time, I was debating whether or not to do a curry recipe database, because I don't know if you guys know this, but there are really no good curry recipe databases on the internet still. It's an open niche, I'm telling you. And people don't believe me when I say this, but honest to God, was a toss-up. I literally could have flipped a coin and done either one, but I wanted to do FARC, and that was how it started.
Okay. Let's see if you can top that one.
After the dot-com crash in Vancouver, we had 100 companies, and it went down to 5 in a matter of a few years. And basically, every few months, I was just jumping jobs. Every 6 months, I'd have a new job. And then I only knew ASP, and I had to learn ASP.NET. So I started creating this free dating site. Because I really didn't like reading books. I don't really get much out of them. I always forget everything I read, but if I do something, I'll remember it. So I just started creating this site, and people started signing up. And I didn't allow image uploading. Half the site was in ASP, half in .NET. It didn't even work properly. It took me like 6 months to make it. But by that time, I already had a couple thousand users, and it just grew from there.
And why the name?
Plenty of fish in the sea, the saying.
This is the long tail of dating. Okay, Max.
He was there before the long tail existed. So I have a very boring story. So after I quit my last job, I sat around for a year doing nothing, feeling very depressed and pretty much getting drunk with this guy every night. And not really drunk, but probably far too much alcohol for my own good. And so I started thinking, I'm going to have to start a company or I'm going to go insane. And I started flipping through the old Upside magazines and just Wired and all the stuff that came out in the 90s that was heralding the entrance of the newest, coolest thing, looking for things that should have been the coolest and newest, but not. And the thing that kept on coming back is the Paul on a cover of Wired saying that push was the king and browser was dead. I thought, well, gee, Coincast was such a big success for about 2 weeks and died. So, something has to be done about that. So I wanted to start a company that would do Coincast right, presumably do it better and last more than 2 weeks. And so that's kind of what Slide came out of, and the domain was not available, but it so fortuitously happened that it was a band in Michigan that the two members, I think, didn't really see eye to eye, and they wanted to get rid of the name, and so I was there, got the name, and we built this little desktop application that would just create these really simple slideshows pushing content to the desktop. And I had this giant plan about how it's going to get smarter and smarter and bring you information and eventually deliver content that you never thought you'd like. And we started building towards that, but people kept on telling us, hey, instead of making me download this thing and then showing off all this great content, can't I see it on the web for a little while first? And so grudgingly, we built this thing that would let anyone take any content from an RSS feed or from a hard drive or from anything really, and would do essentially an emulation of what you'd get if you would download the client. And we just put that on a website and said, here, if you download, you get this, but that's it. You have to go download now. And the next sort of loud user request was, well, if I can see it on the website, why can't I take it with me and stick it into my blog? And it says, fine. So we exposed the embed code and the object tag and just let people do whatever they want. And they started downloading. And I was kind of like, wow, we give them more, they keep on downloading. But then we sort of looked around and realized that for every download, about 20,000 would take the code and put it in their blog. And within a few months, we got to